And this is one I definitely want to have recorded. And where is my spinner? My spinner's missing. Okay. All my quiet stim toys are out of... Okay, here's something quiet. My cube is quiet, depending on which things I'm messing with. So, actually, yeah, my doubling cube is good. You're watching Tetrisphere on YouTube and recognize one of the songs from my hold screen? Oh yeah, Tetrisphere. A lot of this music is... A lot of the music, anything that's out from Pokemon Puzzle League is probably going to either be from Acid Tetris or from Tetrisphere Gamer. So we are going to read this EGM from 1997. This is something this is one of my favorite magazines, like one of my favorite issues. I don't know, even before the 90s were over, I think I somehow lost track of this particular issue. Okay. Oh, okay. Wait, no, we want the gradual scrolling. There we go. Like this here, this I'm sure is from Tetrisphere. If it's not from Tetrisphere, it's from Acid Tetris. And this was right on the tail end. That's a gamer saying in chat that they love the original art on the cover. Yeah, this was right on the tail end of there being lots of original, sort of basically fan art on the covers of these. Oh my gosh, I didn't realize. So this is, you can't quite see because it's a 2-page spread, but it's an image of a render of the city of Midgar from Final Fantasy VII, the elevated city surrounded by 8 giant power plant reactors that are sucking the life out of the planet. And it says it's to a human what headlights are to a deer. And I forgot that this is still 1997. FF7 still, relevant to be, being advertised. But let's check. So this is, I have not read this in more than 20 years. So 100 issues is a lot of work, but we never lost sight of the fact that when you're writing about video games, turning out 100 issues is a lot of fun. EGM has changed so much in the last 8 years, and yet remains deeply rooted in the ideals it was born. Steve Harris grew this magazine out of a little or no profit fanzine that he published out of a labor of love. During EGM's rise to the top, we've retained those simple ideals and never let ourselves get caught up in the pressures or criticisms that come with pushing a category-leading magazine. When the magazine launched in 1989, EGM quickly established itself as being the first to publish screenshots and information on the newest games. It was the tenacity of Steve and Ed Semrad that made it happen, and enthusiasts quickly recognized EGM as the premier source for breaking information and honest reviews by gaming enthusiasts. And so on. No doubt EGM has always been a little rough around the edges, but then so has the video game industry. When EGM launched in the aftermath of the late 1980s game crash, the industry was looking somewhat akin to comic books in both its budget and public perception. Since then, the industry has grown into a multi-billion-dollar beast and has stepped up to ranks of motion pictures as a mainstream form of entertainment. If you look back, you can really trace how EGM's design and editorial package reflected the maturation of the industry throughout the last 8 years. That's why this major redesign of issue 100 is our tribute to you, the readers. You've stuck with us, and now we present you a publication we feel encompasses the state of art in video game coverage. We think you'll like the changes, but as anxious, we're anxious to hear your feedback. So what's in store for the future? Well, who the hell really knows for sure? But in our proud tradition of not being afraid to go out on a limb, here are a few predictions when issue 200 comes around. The edit team could dust this off and laugh at us in our ignorance and cast aspirations upon us. Now, basically, I don't know if they actually made 200 EGMs monthly, but let's check this out. While AI will improve, the best game programmers will recognize there will never be a substitute for a human, friend, or foe on screen, and more games will take advantage of multiplayer setups. That became true pretty much. Games will be more flexible in their creative player mode, so gamers can better personalize their characters, especially RPGs. The time is not too far off when gamers will be able to scan their own photos and put themselves in games. That's basically come to be. Cartridge-based consoles will die off, although there'll be some Atari ET2600 cartridges lying around. Yeah, pretty much. That was pretty much the safest bet they made. LBEs. Now, an LBE, LBEs, that isn't... Hold on. Actually... Alright. Here we go. I just had to set this up so I know that what I'm scrolling... So, LBEs... Now, LBE is location-based entertainment, so that's like something like Dave & Buster's or Chuck E. Cheese, or even a casino, potentially. but LBEs will replace the traditional arcade and will rival the popularity of movie theaters in many communities. They did become... The LBEs did replace traditional arcades, but they are not as widespread as movies. But we'll finally see the triple threat of a great license followed by a great movie followed by a great game. We're hoping it's the Star Wars prequels. Capitalizing on the reputation and the Walkman name, Sony will roll out a Sony Playman, a portable device that can run PlayStation games. Okay, pretty much PlayStation PSP. So we'll scroll back out now. Oh, actually, if we... Alright, here we go. So... A date... Oh, so we have all the key, all the... Man, look at all these cartridges. And remember, you see all these Super Nintendo cartridges? Like the last major... Yeah, Wario's Woods I think was 94, but the last major AAA NES release was in 1993, which was Kirby's Adventure on NES, 93. So the last major AAA NES release was only 4 years prior to this. At this 1997, people think of 95 even as being, oh, it's the end of the Super Nintendo and Genesis era. It's all about PlayStation and Saturn now. And like, no, not really. Like, if you look at the magazines that are showing the previews, you know, eminent release for N64. And we're seeing, there's a period where we're seeing PlayStation and Saturn reviews alongside Genesis and Super Nintendo reviews. That was an era people really don't talk about that much. I remember seeing something, I was watching a few years ago something about Super Metroid, a 1994 Super Nintendo release, saying, oh, it was the end of the Super Nintendo era, and Nintendo was desperate to prove that the Super NES still had what it took to compete against PlayStation. 1994, PlayStation came out in December 94 in Japan. Like, you go to 94, look at the coverage, the zeitgeist, you were deep, you were in the thick of the Super Nintendo, Genesis, TurboGrafx-16 era at that point. So, the last major AAA placed NES release, only 3 years before this, Kirby's Dream Land 3 for Super Nintendo. That was a 1997 release in North America, and Kirby's Dream Land 3 on Super Nintendo did not hit the Super Famicom until 1998, which is the same year the Dreamcast came out in Japan. Alright? You have the arguably in Kirby's Dream Land 3, the last major AAA Super Famicom release coming out the same year that the Dreamcast hit the market in Japan. There's so much overlap between these two eras. So even at this time, at the same time, there was this sense that I remember thinking, like, looking at these, like, wow, NES games, Super Nintendo games. At this point, I'd only played NES and Super NES at relatives' houses. I did not own these systems yet. So these did feel like ancient, you know, sort of throwbacks to an extent at the time. Alright, so let's check this out. Letter of the Month, Intelligent Gamers. Oh, this music here, this is from Heiankyo Alien, which is a maze game. Now, this is the Game Boy version from, I think, 1990. But Heiankyo Alien is a maze game from Japan that is even older than Pac-Man. Actually is, you know, widely suspected to have partially inspired Pac-Man. And this is a game that I've wanted to cover for many years. I've made lots of special layouts, special resources to cover the advertising, the way the game was attempted to be marketed in North America. We'll be covering Heiankyo Alien in early 2024 as part of my new sort of rebooted stream profile. But I'd like to expend a big fat thumbs down to all of those in recent years who have ruthlessly attacked the video game industry over the issue of violence. Yes, it's true that many of today's games depict graphic violence and brutal death, but it's also true that 99% of gamers are able to realize what we are playing as a game. Most gamers are very intelligent people. Most who enjoy using their minds and reflexes to solve challenges. Violence is merely a tool to make the challenges seem all the more real and complex for an overall rewarding experience. The only problem I can see is the false assumption that the gaming community is composed of children. The rating system has been a simple yet effective solution. This allows older and wiser gamers to play games that would appeal to their level of maturity. It is important, however, for parents and store personnel to pay attention to the rating system, much in the same way we enforce movie ratings. As a final note, I would like you all to remember one important thing. Gamers are people. We make mistakes, sometimes find inspiration in the wrong places. But if you're one of those people, then your problem lies much deeper than a controller and a television set, and help lies along the lines of education rather than blind censorship. And of course, this is a more innocent age when they would just actually just explicitly put people's emails where they would write from. And look at this they won this controller as a reward for writing their letter of the year. Oh yeah, and as gamers saying, lots of games. Mortal Kombat 2 released on arcade, Genesis, 32X, Super Nintendo, PlayStation, Game Boy, Game Gear, Saturn, and DOS. I didn't know there was a DOS version of Mortal Kombat 2. And that's interesting. Okay, look at this. This is interesting. Sony in denial. You talk about a PlayStation 2 and claim that this system is a 64-bit console. Well, I was wondering about this mystery machine, so I emailed Sony and asked about the PS2, and this is what I received in response. That's interesting that they got a response this in depth over this. Sony has made no announcement about anything called PlayStation 2, nor have we announced any anticipated dates for a new model. This is sheer rumor and something that will continue to be a focus of rumor as long as Sony continues to invest in research and development. But what company wouldn't? It would be foolish for us to rest on our laurels and not attempt to look way into the future for new opportunities. Any company that wants to continue on a leadership path must constantly invest in the future. That said, the PlayStation is an extremely powerful game system. We haven't even begun to see the kinds of games that are possible through the technology that exists. There's a very long life ahead for the PlayStation. That's actually an incredibly thoughtful and that's an excellent response. Normally, at best, you can hope to get a Nintendo response to that would be Nintendo does not comment on rumors and speculation. But it's interesting, the idea that there are rumors that the PlayStation 2 would be a 64-bit machine. No, actually, the PlayStation 2 that would launch would be a 128-bit machine. Alright, let's, as we're serenaded by Pokemon Puzzle League, we continue on. Oh, let's look at this. Now look at this. This is interesting. Why are first-person shooters called Doom-style games when Wolfenstein 3D came out before Doom? And the answer is because Doom clone is much easier on the ears than Wolfenstein clone. Yeah, this is back when first-person shooters are called were called Doom clones. But Banjo's no Mario. I'm tired of you and the rest of the gaming press giving Nintendo such a hard time about Banjo-Kazooie's similarities with Mario. Since when is Mario the only 3D adventure allowed on N64? Why all of a sudden do we need to break from a game that he gave a near-perfect score to? So what if the gameplay is similar? Is that a bad thing? Plus, it's been over a year since Mario's release, but I guess that's not enough for you guys. That's interesting. That's not something I remember hearing. That's not something I remember hearing much of. Just the idea that people complain. The only closest things to complaints I remember hearing are just that Banjo-Kazooie, oh, it's another kid-friendly Nintendo game. That's like the most I think I remember hearing at the time. Let's see. 3D23. Let's see. Let's check. Game Brain. MTV's Game Brain, the first official PlayStation strategy guide on home video. MTV's Game Brain, the official. Now that's something. Hold on. Hold on. I gotta look this up right now. MTV Game Brain VHS. Oh my gosh! This is on, yeah, this VHS tape, this is on YouTube right now. It's a 90 minutes long. And it's been, one copy was posted 5 years ago, another 6 years ago, and one was 2 years ago. So this is something that they're clearly not enforcing the copyright for. This is something we're going to have to check out. This is something we're going to have to check out sometime. Okay. All right. All right. Thank you, EGM. Yeah, this is... Visit your local retailer or call 1-800-820-9200 to order. Now, I'm going to tell you something. Once I called... okay, first we're going to get that Lara Croft's butt off the screen. And the next thing we're going to do is... I'm going to tell you, once I did actually call one of these old numbers from an ad on screen, and it was an inappropriate hotline. It was no longer video game related. It was now an inappropriate hotline. So I'm going to tell you something. If I ever go, just get too excited and decide to start dialing some random creepy phone number from an ad live on stream, you could just bet that my stream will never be the same if I do that again. Because one day I'm going to call some creepy number from an ad, and it's going to be something I am not at all prepared for, and the stream will end up getting taken over by a creepy AI ad bot or something like that. So here's something: Sega's Comeback, the most powerful system ever created. Let's check this out. The comeback kids of the video game world might not want to call it a comeback, but after a couple of misses, their next system, codenamed Dural, looks more and more like the hit Sega needs. Sega began developing multiple hardware designs, one using a 3D FX-based Voodoo chipset, codenamed Black Belt, the other allegedly using NEC's Power VR ARC technology, Dural. The design Sega chose was NEC's, and 3D Graphics has filed a $3 million lawsuit against Sega, saying the company reneged on their deal. Sources say the decision to go with the Dural over Black Belt caused a rift between the US-based Black Belt team and Sega of America, and that entire team has resigned. Yeah, this is back when there was a lot of tension between Japan and America in terms of Sega's different satellite companies. Considering the most powerful graphics workstations don't use 128-bit chips, calls into question the validity of the report. Yeah, they went with the 128-bit technology in the end. So this, if you're not familiar about this Dural they're talking about, this eventually is what became the Dreamcast. Oh, and a gamer saying, did I hear that Sega America is planning to fire 80 freelancers by February 2024, or layoff? Yeah, I know, like, layoff is a little bit like wishy-washy way of saying firing, but to a certain extent, firing has the implication that, yeah, we gave the money to make a game and they blew it all on Vegas or something crazy like that. Whereas layoff is, yeah, we're changed our plans, we no longer need these employees as part of, and so we're just cost cutting and just letting these people go. Now here's Rampage World Tour. I never played a game in this series before. I heard it's actually relatively samey when it gets down to it. But like I said, I've never... N64 games delayed, so there's Diddy Kong Racing. Yeah, like I said, I'm just hearing, like, my impression of Rampage being samey was based on someone deciding to play through every single stage of the NES version of Rampage in a single sitting over the course of a weekend. I'm sure Rampage, as I believe, is starting as an arcade game, and that's something that I'm sure was more reasonable to sit up and play for a little while, you know, maybe 30 minutes tops, and then walk away from, and just try to get a high score. Not something to marathon nonstop. So, oh yeah, the Strike games. It started with Desert Strike, which was basically cashing in on the Gulf War. And then there was Nuclear Strike, Soviet Strike. Actually, I had a poster for this game on my wall as a kid in the 90s, which is kind of crazy because I was not a violent kid. I didn't even play that many violent video games. So, wow, Sears Funtronics. So here's Now here, this is going back to the. This is just giving a summary of the first EGM, which we've actually read on stream. And the most shocking thing about the first issue of EGM was there was absolutely no delineation between what I as an adult and someone with a background in writing advertising copy. There was no differentiating being made between the paid advertisements and the actual articles. And Clackaboy saying, "Oh yeah, I saw the photos on Tumblr with that about that Sonic pop-up cafe. That was pretty cool." Oh, this game, 1. So 1 is basically, I'll tell you this concept for this game, is you wake up and you're just this big muscle guy whose arm has been amputated and replaced with like an arm cannon, and you have to run around shooting people. And you don't actually die from taking damage. Remember, you have to stay alive by keeping your adrenaline up by continuously shooting enemies. And that's basically what the game is. So, 2 new Square RPGs. Huh. Nintendo goes large. Key titles gain significant arch. Now here's something interesting. So Nintendo announced plans to bolster the ROM sizes of its 2 marquee titles for the 4th quarter in Japan. The first game, Yoshi's Story, formerly Yoshi's Island 64, which is due for release in November in Japan, and February 9th in the US, has been increased from 96 megabits to 128. On the other hand, the other title, Legend of Zelda 64, due out in December in Japan, and the first half of 98 in the US. Yeah, okay. Yeah, this came out in late, like, I think summer in Japan, summer 98 in Japan, and late 98 in the United States. Oh, yeah, and it's kind of funny, Claudia was saying that, yeah, there weren't many, yeah, it was, the ironic thing is in the Archie comics canon, Sonic's chili dogs are officially veggie options. They're officially, like, meatless. So in Archie canon, Sonic's chili dogs are actually vegetarian, possibly even vegan. Now, what is this? First aid for fainting, for playing these thrilling IDOS games. Now let's check these out. Now Quarterman, this is all video game gossip and speculation. A lot of these were nonsense. A lot of these were explicitly just made up from nothing. But sometimes they were. So this is a rumor of what eventually became Dreamcast. Super secret Nintendo system. Disguised as an off-duty geisha girl, Teriyaki picked the lock of Nintendo of Japan, you mean it's NCL? While hiding in the closet, he snapped a nifty telephoto of a design document for a project called Lido 239. While Nintendo's white shirt Goombas were on a restroom break. Oh, they actually used the call it NCL. This is nonsense. This is just... Okay, this is absolute nonsense. Okay. Alright. Yeah, that was just like, hey, we heard there's a new Nintendo system. Like, yeah, that was... Oh, yeah, here's a Ghost in the Shell game. All I remember about Ghost in the Shell is... I watched it in the 90s, and I just remember there's a guy going, like, he was working as, like, a garbage man. He was in some back alley, and he was going between different payphones, like, attaching some weird device to him to hack them, to get, like, to hijack people's bank accounts or something like that. Oh, there was a grass floor. I almost said glass floor. A grass floor in the Sonic Cafe at Comic-Con. That's pretty cool. Oh, so here we go. So Diddy Kong Racing. Nintendo's getting the fam out. Now, and Diddy Kong's Racing, I used to play with Conker all the time in preparation for 12 Tales Conker's Quest, which ended up getting delayed and turned into like an M-rated So Bomberman 64. This is a game that I very specifically have wanted to play since... Oh, by the way, I'm messing around with a little... I don't know, my camera won't focus. I have a little spinning number ring that I'm messing with. Yeah, Bomberman 64 is a game I have on my Wii U that's right on the desk next to my, well, it's part of my setup. And this is something I am looking forward to potentially playing next year on stream. Oh boy! Now this is something, Mischief Makers. This is something, if there's not a remake or official digital re-release, I will be playing this using the analog 3D console. I'll be playing my own cartridge from back in the day. So, called Yuki Yuki Troublemakers in Japan, Mischief Makers was developed by Treasure, the group of Konami expatriates behind the oddball Genesis classics Gunstar Heroes and Dynamite Heavy. Treasure's creative touch means that three things for Mischief Makers. It packs awesome 2D gameplay, unique characters, and the most lethally incredible bosses in the biz. This side-scrolling platformer features rendered characters and levels that pack a surprising amount of puzzle elements. You'll love this game for its incredible effects and super tight gameplay and control. Man, there's one boss fight in Mischief Makers that it would actually time you. It would time your stages. And I would go ahead and speed run that boss fight, see how fast I could beat it, just play through it over and over. Like it was an awesome set piece for the fight in fast motion. You're fighting an anthropomorphic coyote on a motorcycle that also transforms into a giant coyote. It is like the craziest thing ever and is awesome. But Bomberman 64, this is one of those games that is like, yeah, this is one of those Friday night rental games. Absolutely. Yeah, Bomberman 64 is one of those games I discovered through one of those Friday night 90s rentals. Mischief Makers, another one I discovered through that. Now, it's funny, the person at Blockbuster actually warned me, now watch out, this game is 2D. I'm like, and I remember I got Mischief Makers based on seeing these screenshots. And I don't know why I was interested in it. Maybe it was the fact that it was a side-scroller. But you have Mace the Dark Age. I just remember that this game existed. F-Zero 64. Now, this game got... I think this game is on Switch Online. I never actually played it. And Game is saying there are also some new creatures that have been added to the final episodes of the 3D Gen 5 MLP series that they think I would like. Oh, okay. I know I'll definitely be at some point. I'll be playing that Gen 5 and My Little Pony game for Switch just because, like, I want to play more 3D platformer adventure type stuff. And if I stick only to the AAA headline stuff, that limits me quite a great deal. So even as someone who's not a fan of My Little Pony, it's something I probably just play just for the heck of it. I mean, if it's good, then it's good. If it sucks, it'll be hilarious watching me suffer. So, like, I can't lose. And I came 99% of the way to... actually getting that My Little Pony game for Switch, but this was like $5 cheaper at Walmart, so I just went ahead and got this. So look at this. I remember this. I haven't thought of it in more than 20 years, but this ad for Diddy Kong Racing, you have a helmet, you have banana residue, elephant tusk impact, tire mark, third degree lava burn, icicle projectile, petrodactyl droppings, airplane propeller, dinosaur saliva, walrus whisker, palm tree invasion. Yeah, it's quite a, now Extreme G, warning, this game could induce motion sickness. I never actually, now here we go. Here are two games. So Zelda 64. At this point, now we actually now have, because of all the leaks that have happened over the years, we actually have playable builds from this era of the game's development, which is interesting. But this is the most highly anticipated Zelda ever. It's actually set centuries before the other games in ancient Hyrule. Players guide Link through a totally 3D realm and a quest to once again retrieve the Triforce for Princess Zelda before Ganon can stink his claws into the powerful artifact. Link is joined by Navy, a fairy companion who offers hints throughout the adventure. The hero will be able to push, pull, and climb, and perform other moves, all of which can be modeled after real human movement. Now, some interesting things. Link must retrieve the Triforce for Zelda. Link does not actually get the Triforce in the game. And Navy, so this is an early translation of Navi, probably. And then, before Ganon can sink his claws into the powerful artifact, at this point, Ganon, the Ocarina of Time is the first game to depict Ganon in his humanoid Gerudo form. So they're describing him as though he's like a beast, and he's actually just a man at this point. A powerful wizard of a man, you know, but he's a human being effectively and not a beast at this point. But Yoshi's Story, formerly Yoshi's Island 64, Yoshi's Story, also tentatively titled, is the next big platform game to hit the Nintendo 64. What's different about Yoshi's Story compared to the other N64 platformers is that it's a good old-fashioned two-dimensional side-scroller. The simple storyline involves our favorite dinosaur and an adventure to get out of a magically transformed picture book world and into the real world. Well, real to Yoshi anyway. Besides our familiar green Yoshi, you can play as one of 5 other different colored Yoshis. Expect the same awesome traditional platformer that put... Yeah, so I did not play... I was aware of Yoshi's Island on Super Nintendo, but I did not have Super Nintendo. I was very interested to play this, because this would be the first Yoshi platformer I would have access to. And you have to remember, this is like spring 97. So at the time, Yoshi's Island, Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island came out in 95. So this is only 2 years earlier. So if we're in late 2023. Think of a game from 2021. Think of what you were playing. Think of what was coming out then. Like, Yoshi's Story was as old, Yoshi's Island on Super Nintendo was as old as something as like Final Fantasy VII Remake is. Like, that's crazy to think about. But at the time, Yoshi's Island, like, oh wow, a Super Nintendo game so long ago, right? So, I'm glad I picked this issue. So, Ganbare Goemon. This is a game that had, frankly, probably had little chance of coming out in America. Fortunately, it did. And this game was basically... This game is basically Super Mario 64 meets... Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, but before Ocarina of Time came out. So, some of you might remember a sleeper hit for the Super NES called The Legend of the Mystical Ninja back in '92. The game, which didn't catch on too much in the US, is extremely popular in Japan and has already spawned several sequels. Actually, the Super Nintendo game was already a sequel in and of itself. We will be covering the Goemon series next year. Mark my words. Going back to the NES one. This is another one, yeah, as gamers saying, this is another one they hope for Switch Online. Me too, very much so. So, Goemon 64 takes place in a fully 3D world similar to Mario 64, but with more RPG-ish elements, several different gameplay scenarios, including a first-person giant mech battle and a lot of witty dialogue. The story is really wacky. The bad guy has gay dancers as his henchmen. Really? And yes, that is true. I mean, it has a lot of ancient Japanese cultural influences. The Japanese version is a lot of fun, save for minor annoyances with the 3D engine. It's not as smooth as Mario's, but the humor, while bizarre at times, really adds to the play experience. Yeah, that's a game we were lucky to get in America, and I'm glad we did. Alright, so... yeah, just show a kid on a medieval torture rack. I cannot... oh, it's just... Okay, alright. Yeah, I wonder why the Saturn did not do well in North America. And here's for Sonic R. Yeah, some Saturn coverage here. Oh, this... Okay, this is a multi-page ad for Nightmare Creatures. I remember the ad, I never played the game. Maximum Force. Aero Fighters Assault. If I remember correctly, this has a particular... Yeah, so here's the Resident Evil 2. I have no dog in this fight. Oh yeah, someone using an ad for a light gun where they shoot the TV and blood comes out of the TV. Yeah, that is... Yeah, even a year or two after that would not be something they would want to put in a magazine. Oh, okay. Oh, Rampage actually uses sprites. That's cool. I did not realize that Rampage World Tour used sprites. And Gamers asking, how much did it cost me to rent games at Blockbuster? It wasn't my money. I don't remember. Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Dad. Yeah, I have no idea how much it cost. But I remember renting N64 games and seeing that, like, even up until, it wasn't until 99 that they got rid of their Super Nintendo and Genesis games. And even then, I remember seeing Mega Man X in particular. I remember seeing on rental and thinking, like, wow, they still rent Super Nintendo games. What a throwback. Now, Riven is a sequel to Myst, a game which I need to play on stream someday. So I want to... Now, look at this thing. We'll have... This is a 13-inch television with the speakers that open out. It's like a high-resolution monitor for playing your games on. If you wanted a game... This was a game TV at the time. This was like a top-of-the-line game TV. And the fact... This would be 13 inches. 13 inches is the size... oh, you could still buy these on eBay pretty cheap. That's interesting. Now, I wonder if the speakers got blasted out on these by now. But, yeah, like 13 inches? I don't even think... Hold on. I have a ruler right here. This is a... Okay, this is a 12-inch monitor. This is a 12-inch ruler. My monitor, diagonally, is like... My ruler does not even get halfway diagonally across these monitors. This would not even... This 12 inches, only 1 inch longer than this, doesn't even qualify for a modern day computer monitor. And you get this, and you have your all-in-one game setup, pretty much. Yeah, but these were great. I remember seeing these in Funko Land, actually. We have it right here. And so this is Mega Man Neo. This is what eventually, this is what became Mega Man Legends. So they're just highlighting how Mega Man X and Mega Man and the main Mega Man series remain 2D, and this is that's branched out into 3D. So Wild 9, Cool Borders 2, Duke Nukem Total Meltdown. I don't remember that, but Theme Hospital. I don't know anything about this game except for I remember it exists. Oh, here we have Clock Tower. I can't believe we're already on our second Clock Tower reference of the day. Now this is from Pandemonium. And I remember about Pandemonium... Oh, Pandemonium 2, excuse me. I remember about Pandemonium is the fact that when the N-Gage came out, there was a port of Pandemonium to the N-Gage, and it was just in an era well before... Like, I think the PSP might have been announced, but it hadn't been shown yet, and the games hadn't been shown yet, and DS hadn't been announced yet. To see a Pandemonium, a 3D PlayStation game running on a handheld smaller than the Game Boy Advance was pretty impressive. And that was probably the only thing impressive about the N-Gage at the time was just its sheer horsepower. Here's Jet Moto 2. I think I played the demo for that game, Jet Moto 2. Wow, you call this a 1-900 number to hear video game tips. And gamers saying that seeing Pandemonium reminds them that they need to get some plastic PS1 games on PS3 before they shut down that service once for all. Remember that 360... Oh, really? Oh, they're finally shutting down the 360 store. Now, I don't have an Xbox 360. And Wii and 3DS Online is still active. I thought Wii U and 3DS Online was... I know the shutdown of the stores was separate from the online services, but I did not realize that the online was still active for them. That's interesting. Okay, Mortal Kombat. It's amazing. You know, it's funny. I remember just... there was a thread about them shutting down the Nintendo Wii U eShop. The Wii U and 3DS eShop last year. And someone just mentioned that, oh, well, the 360 marketplace was still open. And some Nintendo sycophant responded, oh, well, just because Microsoft does stupid crap, and they use a much stronger word than stupid crap, just because Microsoft does stupid crap doesn't mean Nintendo has to. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, as I know this person, if Microsoft had shut down the 360 store at that time, and the Wii U eShop was still up, that same person would say, "Oh, look, Nintendo stands by their products," but meanwhile, Microsoft, they're being anti-consumer, shutting down their store early. Like, Nintendo's awesome. But, so Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero. This is a game, like, me and my brother, we often we'd team up on Fridays. We'd rent one game each, usually one PlayStation game, one N64 game. We'd, debate, trade favors back and forth as to who gets to choose the game for which system or whatever. We didn't come into conflict often, but Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero, that was a game that we rented. I remember playing it late at night. I think that was a cool night because we got we got our games and movies, and we went to the pizza parlor, and I think we got some cheesy old kung fu movies. So we got home, we're eating pizza, watching some old kung fu movie with terrible dubbing, and then we played Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero, which is basically like a playable cheesy kung fu movie. And I don't think we rented this game again. This game is not that good. I have not played it since then, but we had fun with it. We didn't take it too seriously. Now this track here and a bunch of other tracks, the credits for these are lost. This came from some Japanese webpage that had a bunch of like chiptune MP3s that had Japanese names. And then when I imported them into iTunes did not have Japanese characters support, so it just turned them all into, well, this was back in the 90s, so I was not a vegetarian at the time, and I am not a vegan today, so I actually do eat cheese pizza and stuff. Sometimes if something could be made vegan simply by replacing butter with oil, I might, do that. So Monster Rancher. Now it's interesting, the attempt to bring over a monster training RPG before Pokemon hit big in the US, because at this point, Pokemon came out in 96, this is 97, so Pokemon is already big in Japan. Meanwhile, here we just occasionally hear a blow up like, oh, there's this monster training RPG. I cannot, the forehead shine bugs me so much, even though I know no one notices it. But, so, there's that Duke Nukem game. Oh, Duke Nukem 64. We rented that. I rented that once, and I was like, meh. Powerboat Racing, Batman and Robin, Raystorm. Oh, now here's another one of those Friday night rental games. Intelligent Cube. Intelligent Cube, Sony's new block-rocking puzzle game, isn't much to look at with its empty black backgrounds and rows of marching blocks. This game looks like a no-frills version of Atari's Clax, but then it isn't IQ's graphics that boosted the game into the top of the chart stratosphere in Japan, where it sold more than 600,000 copies. So this is a puzzle game. And I have not played it since then, but I remember playing this game, it was fun. I never rented it again, but Working Designs made some, I don't think I've played any of their games, but I know they're very famous for a lot of, I believe they're shooting games. Now, Bug Riders. This is a game Pete Dorff has played, and he calls it bug spanking, because basically you just have to keep whipping the bug to make it go faster. So, Pitfall 3D, I forgot that existed. A Gun Bullet. That's a funhouse shooter. Oh, that's interesting. Intelligent Cube re-released. Now, is this like a modern remake, or is it just a digital re-release of Intelligent Cube, the PS1 game? So, Mortal Kombat 4. You have Street Fighter Collection. It's an upscaled PS1 re-release. Oh, that's cool. It's upscaled and everything. Now this is from... This right here is from... this is from Hyankyo Alien, but it's not from the game itself. This is from a promotional cassette tape that was released to stores to play on over their loudspeakers in like toy stores and stuff. All right, now this will be interesting. Now this is the feature I most remember this magazine for. This is the best games of all time. Okay, let's get one thing straight from the go. This is not a list of the most. This is not a list of the 100 most influential games of all time, nor is it a list of the 100 games that generate the most nostalgia-driven, fuzzy feelings. These are the best games of our lives. Okay, hold on. I dropped my ring. Hold on. Okay, got it. So basically, they're saying, it's just their 100 games. They're basically just saying it. So here we go. Game 100, Kicks for the NES. Now this is the, mind you, this is before I had access to the internet. So for someone who's interested in game history, I got a lot of good, game recommendations out of this. Now Kicks, we played this on Game Boy. We played the Game Boy version on this when we were testing out the Analog Pocket. Use a tiny spark called a Sticks to draw boxes till they cover the playfield while avoiding the moving, roving Kicks spikes. Yeah, these old TV consoles. Now, look at this. A lot of these games, like Super Mario RPG, you have Jumping Flash here, it looks like. Now, Samurai Showdown, 98, Virtua Cop, 97, MLB 98, 96, Wipeout XL. Well, Courier Crisis. One Psycho Cyclist, 250 extreme errands, a whole city of hurt. So you're running around doing favors on a bike? Like this, I'm surprised I've never heard of this game before. And yeah, so growing up, I played my N64 on it wasn't a wood console TV, but it was a newer TV that had the wood grain paneling. Decathlete, 95, 94, Ice Hockey for NES, 93, Blast Corps. Now that was one of those rental games. 92, Flashback. They're not screenshots for all of these. 90, Panzer Dragoon Zwei. I've never played any of the Panzer Dragoon games, I know. Now, 89, Miss Pac-Man. Specifically the Genesis Super NES version. If you don't know what Miss Pac-Man is, then you probably suck. The 60-bit version improves on the arcade classic by adding new mazes and two-player simultaneous co-op features. It made the list because we don't need to tell you how cool Miss Pac-Man is, unless, once again, you suck. The 16-bit version is even better, two-player simultaneous. Yeah, so... Okay, Ninja Gaiden 2, The Dark Sword of Chaos, 88. 87 is Baseball Stars. Oh, we have the top 10 worst games of all time. Shaq Fu, Rap Jam, Friday the 13th, Bubsy 3D, Club Drive, Total Recall, Plumbers Don't Wear Ties, Shadow Wars Excessive, the Make Your Own Video series, and number one is 90% of the Atari 2600 games released in 83 and 84 so bad they crashed the industry. 86, Galactic Attack. 85, Bonk's Adventure. The only game in the Bonk series I've actually played myself is Air Zonk. No, 84, Kirby's Avalanche and Mean Bean Machine. That's a game we're going to play someday, a puzzle game. Revenge of Shinobi, Jumping Flash 2. I wanted to play Jumping Flash 2 back in the day. I had a demo disc that had a video of Jumping Flash 2 for PlayStation, and I'm like, this looks cool. It's a first-person platformer, actually. But I never played any of the never played either of the Jumping Flash games. Mega Man X4, that's a game me and my brother rented once. And, yeah. So here's all these light gun games that they'd stop localizing in the US after the Columbine tragedy. Blazing Lasers, never played. Life Force, that's a puzzle. That's a shooter game that we will play someday. It's easily available digitally. ActRaiser, Now, this is ActRaiser. I never played it, but I've heard a lot about it, and I've deliberately avoided learning too much about it so I can be surprised by it when and if I do play it. But it is a game where there are side-scrolling action segments, and then it turns into a simulation thing where you're building towns and cities in between. So the 10 titles that revolutionized console gaming: 10 Mario 64, 9 John Madden Football, 8 Dragon Quest, 7 Tetris, 6 Doom, 5 Mortal Kombat, 4 Space Invaders, 3 Street Fighter 2, 2 Super Mario Bros., 1 and is Pong. Honestly, I think that title should probably go to just the Magnavox Odyssey itself. But we have Worldwide Soccer, Mega Man 2, 72 Adventures of Link. Now look at this. Look at this. Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link. The game. The sequel to the most popular action RPG of all time. People will swear, they will tell me that I am out of my mind. No one ever considered the Zelda series to be an action RPG series. Only Zelda 2 had some RPG elements. No one back in the 80s and 90s considered Zelda 2 is the Zelda series a series of action RPGs. You're a historical revisionist. You're making stuff up. You're being a weirdo. Why on earth would anyone consider Zelda an RPG or an action RPG? And here we have it, magazine for 1997. Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link, the sequel to the most popular action RPG of all time. Like, it, and I will... Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And gamers saying the 10 titles should have revolutionized Sonic should have been on that list. It's a fair argument, but I'd say that Super Mario Bros. Changed. Sonic would not have existed without Super Mario Bros. Because Sonic invented Super Mario Bros. Invented the idea of holding the button down longer, meaning you jump higher. And it also introduced the idea of being able to adjust your jump mid-air. Like, no platformer before that I'm aware of had either of those two features. Animal mascots of games? Like, I mean, that's more... In terms of, like, conceptually, Sonic did start that trend in platformers. But in terms of the actual game mechanics and method of action of the game... I'd say that Sonic wasn't as big a deal as Mario. And I say this as someone whose introduction to modern gaming was Mario, so... But, hey, this is all 100% subjective. And this is... Caution, every CD you own hides a monster. And this is for the first Monster Rancher. Something that maybe attempted to localize a bit before its time. Because Pokemon was not popular in the US yet, but... So basically, you take any music CD, and it would randomize a monster for you based on that, which is a cool concept. And we also have Tecmo Stackers, a puzzle game I forgot existed. I don't even think I recognized it existed. So we have Snatcher, Wave Race 64, which I did rent back. Now, here we go. Here's something interesting. Game Boy Donkey Kong. I've got the cartridge for it right here. This is something we'll be playing starting January of next month. So, and this is exactly why I did not plan on this. This is actually the first time I almost got this game before this, but the game, it starts out predictably enough. Guide Mario up ladders and over barrels to rescue his girlfriend, but as soon as you clear the third stage, actually the fourth, Game Boy Donkey Kong suddenly shifts gears and becomes a super addictive puzzle platforming game. It's strange but true, but the best version of Donkey Kong is on the Game Boy, mainly because this incarnation offers all the gameplay of the original and so much more. Rather than just a few action-packed levels, you get hundreds of puzzles, and the difficulty curve is perfect. Each world packs new puzzling gizmos, plus Mario can pull off moves he can't even do in his Super NES and N64 exploits. The coolest part, never running out of lives because it's so easy to win them in the in-between level. Caught misbehaving. Hey, that chick Mario saving doesn't look anything like Princess Toadstool? It's Pauline. Like, I'm surprised they would not be hip to that. It's Pauline, who predates Princess Toadstool. Versus True Fighters, True Turf. Yeah, they're trying to entice me with that very polygonal looking woman. You have Guardio Hero, Super Tecmo Bowl, Return Fire, Twisted Metal 2. I never played any of the Twisted Metal games, actually. I never played Phantasy Star. You have Mega Man X4. Me and my brother, we went to the PlayStation version once. Oh, look at this. Now we know where Sony got the idea for that prototype. PlayStation 3 controller they didn't follow through on. So so here we got, what is this? The Spawn game for... No, Youngblood Search and Destroy. I never heard of that. We're going to be doing... Well, we're more than halfway through. So, and Twitch wants to stick us with an ad soon. So I think I'm going to... Yeah, the Batarang looking controller. So we're going to cut to break. I'm going to do a minute-long ad break. Or at least I predict it's going to be a minute. And if it's more than a minute, I will change the timer. But we're going to go to our break screen, so everyone knows, even if you are not subscribed, you're not missing on anything. And I will trigger the break. Actually, I'll make it 2 minutes. So even if you are not subscribed, you aren't missing out any content. So we'll take a break. I'll get up, stretch, and we'll get back to finishing this magazine. Alright, sorry, I was a tad late. I miscalculated slightly. Alright, let's get back to the zines. There we go. So we're about halfway through the list here. Gamers saying that going through these classic magazines makes them want to try and find some at thrift stores. Hey, I'm glad I could inspire a little bit. I know, yeah, this is something I enjoyed. Golden Nugget. Yeah, let's see what... Yeah, oh my gosh, look at this. Yeah, a gambling casino game. Rated K to A, kids for adults. That's the modern equivalent of an... Yeah, it's the modern equivalent of an E rating. They would never get away with this now. They'd have to potentially rate this game M for simulated gambling. Or T. Or maybe... No. So, RC Pro-Am. This is a game I played the Game Boy version of. I wasn't big into it. But check and chew. Devil's Crush. Now, that's a game I think I have on the Wii U Virtual Console. Is Mario Kart 64. Yeah, that's a game we'll be playing. Yeah, I'll be playing that. Actually, I'll tell you what. Our first stream of 2024 is going to feature Mario Kart 64. So get ready for that. Ghouls and Ghosts. Never played it, never will. I don't want to play super hard platformer. Military Madness. Space Megaforce. That looks like a fun 2D shooter. Contra. Maybe I'll play that someday. Metroid. We played Metroid. We played Metroid Zero Mission. And we never played the original. Let's see what they have to say about Metroid. A futuristic sci-fi action game that stars a female for once. You collect a ton of unique power-ups and weapons, all of which you must use in order to properly progress through the game. Made the list because Metroid is one of the all-time best games on NES. It's not a straightforward puzzle, shooter, or action game. You must utilize every tool available to find everything this deep and involving game has to offer. It's an all-around well-crafted masterpiece. Coolest parts, bombing apparent dead ends and finding secret paths in new areas. Did you know that certain areas in the third Metroid game are taken straight from the original? Even some of the secrets, like the seemingly unreachable energy tank in the ceiling, are in the right places in the 16-bit sequel, which is pretty cool. We have Arkanoid, which in spite of, ironically, even though I have played so much Alleyway, I've never played Arkanoid or Breakout. You have a Bushido Blade, which I remember as being a fairly realistic fighting game with when you're using katanas, where you slash someone once or twice and that's it. You know, it's a very relative. So Star Fox 64, this is a game we'll be playing sometime. It made the list because it's the best 3D shooter in the history of mankind. And the amount of speech rivals any CD game to date. That's very generous. They did have a lot of voice samples, but they were very clearly heavily compressed. But the fact that the voice... You know what? I just realized. The fact that the voices are so compressed, were able to get away with it because within the context of the world, they're in ships. They're in spaceships fighting in space combat. So the fact that the voice samples are so compressed makes it sound like they're coming over a radio. Which is perfect, actually. And Gamer agrees. Now, Super Mario Brothers. Now, that's interesting. Now, they're choosing a specific... They're not just saying Super Mario All-Stars. They're specifically saying the Super Mario All-Stars version of Super Mario Brothers. So, Metal Gear. And this is they're specifically saying the NES version and not the PC version. That's interesting. And this is, and mind you, this Metal Gear, this is before Metal Gear Solid. This is pre-Metal Gear Solid praise for Metal Gear. Now, Kid Icarus. This is the game, I played it on the NES version through the Wii's Virtual Console. I wasn't able to really get into it until the 3DS, 3D Classic version. But, yeah, so, yeah, it's a very interesting game. A Nintendo game based on sort of Greek and Roman mythology. And here's another ad for one. So, Bionic Commando. Phantasy Star 2, Chrono Trigger, Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening. This is one we'll be playing possibly in 2024. The portable version of... In fact, how fitting is it that I happen to have both Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening on Game Boy and the Switch version side by side? I mean, look at how far technology has come. How huge the original cartridge is compared to the cartridge for the Switch remake. I plan to be covering both versions of this game in a very unique way that I will share with you later. That's what I'll say about that for now. And Chrono's saying that what did Chrono Trigger get? A 29. It's 29 out of 100. We're far too low. I heard great things about this game. I got to admit, it's one that's probably... I might be streaming... If I stream for 20 or 30 years in the future, maybe I'd get to Chrono Trigger someday. Gamers saying should have been top 10. Well, let's say what they chose in its Now here's relevant Super Mario RPG. This one just came out. Its remake just came out on Nintendo Switch, and I've played about a third of the way through the game before I stopped. This is a game I will be returning to. I will be returning to the Super Nintendo version on the Super NES Classic Edition as I was playing it. Alright. So let's zoom out a bit. Okay. And they're saying Mario RPG should have been top 10 as well. I'm not even sure Mario RPG... Well, I haven't beaten it yet, so who knows, but... I can't even... I'd have to think about what my top 10 would be. Now, GoldenEye... And this would have been a very recent release at the time. Where's Pokemon? Pokemon was not even... This is October 1997. Pokemon was not even out in the United States yet at this point. So there's no chance for Pokemon to be on this list. Here's Final Fantasy VII. Yeah, no Pokemon. And yeah, Pokemon's not out in the US. Metal Gear Solid isn't out whatsoever. Sonic CD will be playing this someday. Super Mario Kart. Now here's interesting, okay? The most challenging moment. Trying to explain to someone who hasn't played the original Super Mario Kart why it's still better than the 64-bit sequel. I would never say that Super Mario Kart is better than Mario Kart 64. I just do not like... Now, here's interesting. They put the All-Star edition of Super Mario Bros. 2 ahead of Super Mario Bros. And that's actually something I would probably go along with. And, oh, hey, we have, Juan. They're saying Metal Gear Solid, what, popular in the U.S., that they have the NES game in there. And, yeah, Metal Gear, I never played any, I played Metal Gear Solid, I played the demo of it on PlayStation, I played Metal Gear Solid 2, I did not beat it. I played through about half of I played through most of the freighter scenario, and the time and for both games, there were just so many games coming out that there were other games I was just more interested in playing than either of those at the time. But yeah, I would actually play Super Mario Bros. 2 ahead of ahead of Super Mario Brothers, even though I did in January of this year. I did play through. I was grinding at Super Mario Brothers trying to beat it, and I did not get to beat it. But I got up to the last stage. I did not quite beat it. Yeah, and like Juan is saying, yeah, you can play with your favorite character in Mario 2. In Super Mario Brothers, the first one, you can only play as Luigi if you have a second player. But played in Japan, the US version of Super Mario 2 is actually an entirely different game called, and here it comes, called Doki Doki Panic. More or less the same game, more or less, with other characters and completely different look. Later on, the US Super Mario 2 was released in Japan as Super Mario USA. Oh yeah, Green Mario, because that's before they actually differentiated the way the two games played. So The Legend of Zelda, like this here, like I had played, yeah, and like Juan is saying, Doki Doki Panic is based on a Fuji TV festival. It was a kind of a World's Fair-like event called Yume Kojo, and GTV over on YouTube actually did a fantastic documentary about the actual Yume Kojo festival. Look at this. Once again, The Legend of Zelda, a unique top-down action RPG. See, people say I'm insane for saying that that the Legend of Zelda series was ever considered an action RPG. And yes, in the context of how game genres are defined today, The Legend of Zelda is not an RPG or even an action RPG. But in the 80s and even in the 90s, it wasn't uncommon for the 2D Legend of Zelda games, and even Zelda 64, even Ocarina of Time, to be considered an action RPG. And like, and gamers saying that I'm with you, Zelda's an action RPG. I wouldn't even consider Zelda an action RPG today, by today's standards. But in the context of the 90s, it was not uncommon to see this referred to as an action RPG. And actually, there is an RPG. Juan's making a reference to the infamous cutscenes from the CDI Zelda games. There is a modern game that just came out. I think it's either about to come out or just came out, based on the Zelda CDI games, but not using any of the Zelda trademarks. And it's a game I'd actually consider playing sometime or another. But you have Super Mario World as number 11. Wow, Saturn Bomberman ahead of Super Mario World. We'll be playing Super Mario World on stream someday, for sure. Now, Saturn Bomberman, that's interesting. Now, ahead of Super Mario World. Now, 9 is Final Fantasy 3. Now, by Final Fantasy 3, they're talking about Final Fantasy 6, actually. Now, wow, 7, Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island. This is a game we'll be playing. Now, Yoshi's Island was in development for over 3 years before it was finally released. So they started working on this in '92. And Juan's calling it Super Mario World Togepi Islands. And yeah, with the sort of crayon-colored aesthetic of Togepi's shell, it's probably not a bad call. Here we have Tomb Raider 2. With the beautiful, gorgeous, and blockier chest profile than Gumby's mom, Lara Croft. So number 6, Super Metroid. Now, I was familiar with Metroid 2 because, I think it came in a pack of Kool-Aid Cool Burst or something. It had packs of little tip and trick cards for Game Boy games, and there's a tip card for Metroid 2 Return of Samus, and that's the first. Yeah, look at those rocks in Tomb Raider. A bigger and better version of the classic 8-bit. Yeah, so Super Metroid. Number 4 is Mario 64. Now, this is only this is barely a year after Mario 64 came out. So number 3, Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. Number 2, Super Mario Bros. 3 All-Star Edition. And number 1, I would say that's very likely Now, this is an interesting quote from Miyamoto. I am honored to be chosen as a key person in this industry, but as a game developer, I feel I am not in a position to judge other people's games. I also don't really play many other games, so I must apologize for refraining to provide my top 10 list. But I would like to comment on how the gaming industry has changed in the past decade. It used to be that the industry had no real history. But in the past 10 years, there have been some things that can be called history. For example, there are not many games in the old days that can be enjoyable even today. But there are some games today that can be enjoyable even 5 years from now. I feel this is the most profound change in the industry. The fact that Electronic Gaming Monthly was able to contact Miyamoto and solicit him for a top 10 games list is interesting. That is not, yeah, and Gamer's saying great quote, that is not something I think Miyamoto would... I don't think the fact that EGM was even able to contact Miyamoto for a top 10 games list and get a response back at all. Oh yes, on Azurest, Miyamoto is the one I met when I took a picture with that Minish Cap hat that my dear mom crocheted to me, and I got to shake his hand. He signed my Game Boy Micro box, as well as my Nintendo DS. That was a cool day. Got to shake that man's hand. That was so cool. Yeah. And Marvel superheroes. No truth, no justice, no holds barred. Oh, so this is a fighting game for PlayStation by Capcom. And gamers saying that was one of their first SDSH memories, that cool green hat. Yeah, I'd like to thank my dear mama for crocheting that together for me. Number 1. Now here's something that Azurest, I think, would agree with. Number 1 is Tetris. Gotta be Tetris, right? Spend half your life forcing 6 differently shaped blocks into neat rows at the bottom of a well. Spend the other half waiting for straight, skinny blocks so you can score a Tetris. Oh yes, and that picture that I took with Mr. Miyamoto was in the official Nintendo press release. Yeah, the Game Boy version I think is the ultimate version. But final thoughts. So, man, we are only halfway through this magazine, and there's something. You know what's funny? I just realized earlier today, I was thinking about this particular issue of EGM, and only right this moment did I think there's something. I remember being in the last page of this particular magazine, an ad or something like that. That I thought that I was thinking about. Look at this. An ad for Tomb Raider 2 about a guy in his like bare mattressed bedroom with a creepy Lara Croft shrine. And Clyde was saying they'd love to see me wear that hat on stream. With the size of my apartment, honestly, if I was wearing the hat, you'd barely be able to see it on my head. Like, it is a huge hat. It would be like twice the size of the layout. I'd have to be zoomed out so far from the TV for that hat to even fit on my webcam view. So I unfortunately think that's not going to happen. But it would be cool someday, maybe when I have a bigger apartment. Okay. So Clay Fighter 63 1/3. That's a game I rented. I never played the first Clay Fighter for Super Nintendo because I did not have a Super Nintendo. And I could think of at least one character from Clay Fighter 63 1/3 that would definitely probably not go over well these days. Yeah, sit on the floor, and then you just see Eslo sitting on top of my head. Eslo only stream. Test Drive 4, behind the scenes. Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one to go back to all on its own someday. Five sleeper hits of the holidays: Colony Wars, Treasures of the Deep, 1. Yeah, we'll go through this in more detail. Parappa the Rapper. Yep. This is a game that I definitely rented several times back in the day. I never beat it back in the day. I never actually got to beat this game, Parappa the Rapper. That was a cool rhythm game, where you're a little rapping dog made of paper. You're not actually made of paper within the concept of the game, but the characters are all depicted in paper thin, like models that move into 3D space. Oh, Azurest remembers Parappa the Rapper. So, Castlevania Symphony of the Night, another game I have not played a single Castlevania game before. That's a game if I ever play like a spoopy game for Halloween, like the Castlevania for NES, and I never played Croc, and which I believe actually, it was just kind of hard to believe, was originally pitched like pre-Mario 64 as a 3D Yoshi game. That just seems such a bizarre thing to think that before, like, Nintendo's still developing Mario 64, and a third-party company pitches a 3D Yoshi game to, and honestly, like, and Yoshi, standalone Yoshi is like the last platform game, the last Nintendo game that has not made a leap into true 3D. Yet. And here's the interesting thing. If Yoshi were to go 3D, will it be a Yoshi... Now, gamers saying I should play the Super NES Bubsy. It's on Steam for a few bucks. I have a Steam account. I have not even played a single Steam game yet. Like, Steam is a whole other world. And frankly, I need to, yeah, I need to get a setup where unfortunately, the calling system for my computer, my computer's calling system is so loud. My microphone for my voice picks it up a lot, and there's something I can really do about that. I want to get when I get a new apartment and a new computer, I want to get a setup where I can have my computer further away from my microphone, because I am cramped up in here. Now the nice thing about being cramped up in here is that there are lots of games on many systems on Steam that are officially licensed. But you got some more. Oh, we have Gex 64. Get a second Gex game, the full 3D Gex game. Now, my first exposure to Gex was on 3DO. When I was a kid, I remember the pastor of the church we used to go to, his son had 3DO, and he let me watch him play it. You know, and all of the Sonic Game Gear games come with Sonic Adventure DX on Steam. Frankly, for digital solutions to play the Sonic Game Gear games, I'd probably sooner go with that expanded Sonic collection that's available on Switch, rather than the Steam version, rather than getting it on Sonic DX. And plus, I'm not sure if you have to unlock the Sonic Adventure DX. Now, I actually bought a Sonic Adventure DX back before I first started streaming, and then I never actually played it. Because that was back when I was over preparing. Oh, wow! We have Tetrasphere music, and we have Tetris Sphere here in the magazine. Now, Tetrasphere is a game where it's basically Tetrasphere was meant to be Tetris's breakout into 3D, where you're playing, rather than adding blocks, you're sort of clearing blocks from a spherical. Oh, and gamers saying all the files for the Game Gear games are in the install folder once you unlock. Wait, are they literally Are they just Game Gear ROM files that are in the? They're just Game Gear ROM files that are in the install folder that will just run in an emulator. Is that the manner in which the games are included in Sonic Adventure DX for Steam? Because honestly, like, I could already just run the ROM files, because I have the actual cartridge. I can just run on my Analog Pocket or on my Analog Make SG. But in terms of just running ROM files, I could do that on my modded or my jailbroken Analog Pocket right now. And I'm not against running. I am not against ROMs and PC emulation in certain situations. And if it's a game I actually have the physical copy for, like, I'm even more down for it. Like, what did I get? Well, somewhere I already put it away. I already put it down somewhere, and I don't know where it's at. But oh, here it is. So I got Donkey Kong, the Game Boy Advance version of the NES version of Donkey Kong, so I could run an official, like, physical copy of the NES version of Donkey Kong on my Analog Pocket, which is the same device I'm going to use to play Donkey Kong 94 in January. Because, I mean, I could easily have just gotten the ROM file of NES Donkey Kong and just run it on my Analog Pocket. But I'd rather play an official cartridge when it's easily available, so that's the way I'm doing it. As honestly, because if you just want to go with all ROMs, you do not need an Analog Pocket. Like, because I have such a large physical collection of handheld games, the Analog Pocket is a solution that made sense for me. So you have a bunch of... Oh my gosh, here we go. I remember. Here we go. Wait, hold on. So this is interesting here. Hold on. So Funky Monkey. Oh, yeah, so this is Tiger's take on the Tamagotchi, attempt to compete with Tamagotchi. I had the purple dog one of this, and I remember the first night I got it. And this was such a big deal that we had to go all... Well, I remember my mom got me my virtual pet. It was a Gigapet. It was the dog. From the FAO Schwartz in New York City. Rest in peace, in Manhattan. And that night, I was feeding as I was feeding my actual dogs, I was opening the cans of dog food. The dog, my virtual pet dog, died. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, the virtual pet dog's gonna die because I left for 5 minutes to feed my real dogs? Now, this game, MDK, I played this for... Hold on. I played this on... yeah, I see, like, all their Sega games that are released on Sega are just flat-out ROM files. That's pretty cool. Well, it gives you a lot of versatility in terms of how you actually play them. But, yeah, MDK. Now, here's something interesting. I got a copy. MDK was officially packaged in with my Revision A iMac. You know, the old green, like, candy-looking iMac. I had that, and it came with, MDK. Yeah, this was back when EGM Squared or EGM2. Eventually, I believe EGM2 basically had more of an emphasis on walkthroughs and stuff. And Clacken Boy's saying they're on their way to get an avocado bubble milkshake. Interesting. So, yeah, we're nearly at PlayStation Magazine. They got that Ghost in the Shell game. AI is, and as you're saying, AI is a jealous mistress Tamagotchi. It's like, oh, you're going to feed those flesh and blood real dogs? Then fine, I'm going to die on you. How do you like that? I remember this ad. I think this is for... Oh no, I never actually... Dark Rift. I don't remember that game. I remember the ad for it, though. Now, I remember this. I remember this ad. Of all these different virtual pets they have. Cute Puppy. And Virtual Dinosaur with a pause feature. Virtual Dragon. Virtual Duck. Virtual Chicken. And this one's just called Chicken Chicken. Virtual Bird. Virtual Puppies. A lot of these are probably imported straight from Japan. And gamers saying they always got Digimon and Tamagotchi mixed up. Yeah, basically Digimon, I mean, they're both from Bandai. And Tamagotchi was basically the more, I guess, the more traditionally feminine version. And Bartface saying, hey H, hope you're doing well. Always appreciate when I stream. Well, I appreciate you, Bartface. I appreciate everyone who watches me, whether you are in my active chat or if you are holding the fort in my silent squad. I appreciate you giving me any amount of time. If you happen to just join me, this is EGM the 100th issue of Electronic Gaming Monthly, and yeah, the quality of magazine stock is almost like a glossy pulp. So it's sometimes you get some interesting effect. Oh my gosh, look at this. It's a virtual pet boy called Virtual Boy. I'm surprised Nintendo did not sue them. It's like, we may disavow having the existence of Virtual Boy, but by golly, we will sue you if you try to have a virtual pet. But look at this, is interesting. Now what this is, the virtual fortune teller, virtual 8-in-1 game, virtual mouse, virtual kitten called Cute Kitty, virtual bat, virtual fish. I ain't no Tamagotchi. Now what this is an ad for wholesalers. The next generation of virtual... Now Yeah, virtual pets were so popular, they actually put an ad for wholesalers that are trying to get a hold of some kind of virtual pets to sell to kids. Virtual friend, virtual alien. I was so virtual 55 in one game. That's one of those little block game things. And I was specifically thinking of this ad earlier today. Now, BRE, they only closed a few years ago. That's interesting. I was not aware of that. Now, these ads are lists of games, and now what these lists would do, I don't know about this, but definitely in the 80s and 90s. Hey there, Mecha Kong. Now, what these lists would sometimes do is they would put in fake games in these lists so that they could check other competitors, and if they saw the fake games they put in here in their list, they knew they were just stealing their lists. It was kind of a copyright trap. And one of these put in a fake game called Hey Hey Beavis 1 that became an urban legend of people trying to find out if this game ever actually existed or not. And they're like half-hour long videos of people trying to get to the bottom of if Hey Hey Beavis 1 even existed. Now here you go, Japan video games. This is where you'd import, like a lot of people didn't have access to the internet. This is how you'd import your games. And here we have, look, Zeta Gundam. They just call it Z Gundam for $59. I didn't know there was a Zeta Gundam game for the Saturn. And often some of these magazines would also sell, these ads would also sell the mod chips to modify your console. You'd have to solder it in yourself. But here you can import Goemon. There was a Doraemon game. You could import Bomberman 64. Now, Goemon ended up coming out officially in the US, but Wonder Project J2, I remember this being like a game I would just be interested in because I'd always see they'd sell pre-owned boxes for classic games to complete your box copy. That was a pretty valuable service these days. But yeah, you could import, if you don't want to wait for Star Fox 64, you could import your... Oh, no, these are just the US copies. But a Wonder Project J2, it's a sequel to a Super Famicom game called Wonder Project J. And it's kind of a point-and-click adventure game where you're sort of raising a robot maid or something like that. Now, here we go. This is interesting. Now, let's see if we could do one of $25 Funko gift certificate by doing this crossword puzzle. In Final Fantasy VII, you join the blank resistance, one down. It's Avalanche, A-V-A-L-A-N-C-H-E. Okay, so we got that one. And Final Fantasy VII begins in the blank industrial contest. That would be Midgar, M-I-D-G. Oh, no, I guess they were looking for Mako, M-A-K-O. And the gamer is saying that some games are more import-friendly than others. Like Star Fox 64 is import-friendly. It'd be interesting to hear those import... Now, I remember I had a friend in this time period who had, like, he would have binders full of these, like, translation guides that he downloaded from the internet and printed from the public library computers. Now, look at this. Japanese... Oh, no, this isn't Japanese. These are just... Yeah, but they'd also include the mod chips. And to think that modifying your console to play foreign games and even potentially bootleg games, they would never put that in a mainstream publication these days. Like, these days, like, you get raided by the police over stuff like that. But back then, you just go ahead and order these, right? So, we will come back to this magazine because I did skip over a lot of this simply because... yep, Metromags, Metromags.com for all your archived magazine needs. Yeah, so that'll do it for this stream. Thanks everyone for joining me. Thank you everyone for joining me. A great mag today. Yeah, this is a magazine I was just thinking about recently. So I will be back on Saturday, the 2nd of December. And we're going to be playing some Kirby's Dream Land. One of the first... I got my Game Boy in '95. My dear aunt gave me my Game Boy with a whole library of games right off the bat. We're going to be reading the the instruction manual to start off with. We'll be playing through the game. It's likely I may be able to beat it in a single session. I never beat it back in the day. And yes, as Gamer alluded to, I did tease this last stream. We're going to be doing a Kirby month. Kirby's Dream Land 1, 2, and 3. If we make it that far. I mean, I played Kirby's Dream Land. I played it once on 3DS Virtual Console when it first came out, and I have not played it again. And I played it through once, and even then, all I can remember is the fact that I played it on 3DS Virtual Console. I don't remember many details about the game. So we'll also be reading period magazines featuring Kirby's Dream Land coverage from the time, which I still have to dig up. And so we've been playing through the Kirby's Dream Land series. I never played Kirby's Dream Land 2 or 3. Now, I did play Kirby's Dream Land 3. I just got up to the title screen just to do the audio balancing for it. And I was shocked. I never actually looked at screenshots of Kirby's Dream Land 3 before. And I did not know that that game had a sort of a crayon art style, kind of predecessor to Yoshi's Island. Well, actually, Kirby's Dream Land 3 was post Yoshi's Island, come to think of it. And I did not realize that Kirby's Dream Land 3 came out on Super NES in 97, and not until 1998 on the Super Famicom. And kind of a precursor to Kirby's Epic Yarn. So we'll be playing through the Kirby's Dream Land series. And if we get through those 3 games, we also have Kirby's Tilt and Tumble on the Nintendo Switch Online's Game Boy and Game Boy Color library using the motion controls of the Joy-Con. And that's going to be a fun one to play. I usually play my Switch games, no matter whether it's classic or modern, using the Switch Pro Controller. Kirby's Tilt and Tumble, if we get to that one next month, that's going to be one we'll be playing. I'll be playing that using the Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons and the Joy-Con grip. The feel of the Joy-Con and the grip is going to feel a lot more like holding a Game Boy Color in my hands. And if that should cover us through December. And January, the January 3rd stream, Wednesday, January 3rd, is going to be the most important stream of my career. It's going to be something... I'm going to be doing a sort of soft reboot. Not a reboot. I mean, it's for lack of a better term. But I'm going to be introducing some new elements into my stream. These are things that I've been planning since my very first stream back in May 2020. If you look at my very first... almost all of my streams are up on that playlist I just dropped the link to. And if you look at my very first stream in May 2020, you will notice certain things about my stream that are the same even today. And those things have been the same this entire time in preparation for the elements that I will be introducing in starting with every single stream starting in the first week in January. These are elements that I have spent a lot of... I've been planning this since before 2020 when I started streaming. I started doing all the serious writing and development for it and collaborations for it. I put significant personal resources into what will comprise my new streaming format, but I will tell you that me appearing on camera in front of you, using a webcam, that's something that's not going to change. So I'll call it there for today. Thank you very much for watching and for joining me, and I will see you next time.